everybody, welcome back to Fly By Night Reviews. I'm your host, Kiren
and Dom.
Today we're going to do something special. We're huge fans of the Evil Dead series, and to sort of celebrate the upcoming Evil Dead Rise, that's out April 21st, we're going to review Evil Dead 1, 2, Army of Darkness, and the 2013 film. So today we're going to actually review the first two, Evil Dead 1 and 2. Reason is essentially those movies are basically the same. I know there are differences,
yes.
And we're gonna tell you those differences. But overall, the first one I feel like was kind of like a school project.
Yeah.
It was almost like, hey, let's get some buddies and let's make a movie, and then when the studio's probably like, hey, we need a sequel.
After Raimi made a name for himself, he kind of got a little more budget to do a sequel.
And yeah, that's what Evil Dead kind of felt like. Some of the scenes were like, they were kind of the same, but then like done in a more stylistic way, and like it was just overall. I prefer Evil Dead 2 to be honest. It just felt like it found its place.
Right.
It was like the perfect mix of horror and kind of comedy.
Yeah.
The first one, I
guess
guess,
just trying to go straight horror.
Yeah, but even the straight horror, I think the whole vibe of like the Deadites and there's almost like you can't really play that straight. Like it's always going to be kind of funny because it's almost like an Exorcist or something where it's like, even though it's supposed to be frightening and scary, it's still like funny.
Yeah.
But what are the things that you liked about Evil Dead 1?
What was it? I thought it had a better setup. The intro, like the just getting to the cabin, because when I was watching, rewatched them for the first time, like almost 10 years.
Yeah,
I mean, as much as I love them, it's been a while since I've seen them.
I saw them earlier than that, but yeah, it's been a while. Yeah,
but yeah, I was watching it, it's like you were saying, it's pretty much the same but different. It actually seemed more like a sequel. Evil Dead 2 seemed more like a sequel to me than a remake. It just kind of like they didn't care, or they just went about continuity. But it kind of starts like that first, half hour is kind of like a bad recap of Evil Dead 1.
Yeah,
it kind of extends it.
Yeah, because the way Evil, so basically Evil Dead, it starts off with a group of friends go to this cabin, and then they play the tape? Yeah, and then
they go into the cellar and find the tape and the book, and
so they basically resurrect the demons or whatever.
Right.
So this is basically the same plot as part 2, but the beginning of part 2 is basically a recap of part 1, but just Ash and
his girlfriend.
Linda, his girlfriend,
rather than Ash, his friend and his girlfriend and his sister. I didn't even realize that was supposed to be his sister.
Yeah, like there was no. I mean,
until I was just rewatching it, I was like, oh, that's his sister. Okay.
Yeah, and then I noticed also because like the end of Evil Dead 1. It shows like the demon going into him, and then the beginning of Evil Dead 2 kind of, I could see they were trying to like kind of make him like, oh, it's the part
after the bad recap, then it's where he takes up where Evil Dead 1 ended.
It was probably like what Evil Dead 1 should have been, what it was Evil Dead 2, but yeah, now I watching it like close together because I watched it the night before and I was like, okay, that I see it now, like, because before it was like, it just seemed like this is like the same movie, and then I was like, okay, it's
just with a slightly higher budget.
Yeah, and definitely the like Bruce Campbell, Ash's character in the first one was like he didn't do any of his like. I mean, he did a little bit of his what do you call those, like mannerisms?
Yeah,
but the second one he just sort of like went full
ham.
Yeah. Which, obviously this is the reason why I love the film so much. Ash kind of like makes the movies basically.
Pretty, yeah. And the show.
Oh yeah, the show too. Yeah, we were thinking about doing this review of the show. I was like, that's too much. Too much, man. But yeah, I love the simple concept of the story. Just like Book of the Dead, reading it, and then
Awakening spirits. Yeah.
yeah, and having all the people getting possessed one by one, and then in part two we get to see Ash get possessed too, which is kind of a cool take.
Yeah.
And then of course the famous hand, he has to saw off his hand, and he gets the the chainsaw thing. I honestly think like when they finished one, or when they were going to do two, that's when they kind of started building up the lore,
right?
To kind of get it ready for basically Evil Dead 3, which is Army of Darkness, which at the end of Evil Dead 2, they kind of really, he basically goes back in time, and
right,
he's like the chosen one according to the book. He's like the savior. But I remember actually, because when I was living in India, I saw Army of Darkness. This wasn't the first time I've seen it, but we watched it in the theater.
Uh-huh.
And in India, it was called Evil Dead 3. It wasn't called Army of Darkness.
I was actually looking up on stuff on the series, and they wanted to call it Evil Dead 3, but the studio wanted to try to. They thought the name would scare people away, so they went with Army of Darkness.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, and like, I understand. I kind of like Army of... It always felt like a different movie, but in hindsight, it felt like a different movie, but then watching it, it was pretty much... it wasn't as, like, I guess, scary.
Right.
It was definitely more campy. Like, they just kind of did the campy, like, full on.
Right.
But
leaned in really heavily, yeah.
But yeah, like Sam Raimi, the director, is like, you could tell it was his movie, like the way he films, and you can even see that like in like Spider-Man, like just his style. And you haven't seen Darkman, but that came out.
I saw where because of like the success of Darkman, that was why they were able to do Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, Darkman was pretty. It was pretty cool. It was almost like The Shadow.
Mm-hmm.
That comic book character or whatever.
Right.
But it was just like very like, yeah, it was cool. Like I remember seeing it as a kid, not really knowing it was connected with the whole Army of Darkness, the same director,
Right.
But yeah, I kind of, I like how they just went. The budget in Evil Dead 2 was just like, it seemed like they had a lot more money to do a lot more stuff. Especially when you see them side to side, it's like, man, like
when you see them really close together, it's just like,
yeah, so you kind of like, definitely know the differences, and, I still think there was some kind of creepy parts in Evil Dead 1 compared, like some of the like gore or whatever.
Yes, my dog was barking a little bit during the first one. She slept through the second one.
Oh, okay. All those, a lot of like those screaming, and when the demons are sort of, the camera moves kind of through the forest, and sort of like, that's like Raimi's like signature now. It's like you see that in like every movie that he makes now, even like Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness. Whatever.
Oh yes,
a lot of the.
I was surprised how Raimi that got.
Yeah, but this movie is like, I guarantee if you're a horror fan, this is probably one of your favorite movies. It was definitely like, I remember being a kid and going to the video store and seeing Evil Dead 2, the VHS, and I was like, man, that looks like freaking awesome. And I think I saw Army of Darkness before any of the other films. I think I finally got to see Evil Dead 2 when I was living in India.
Yeah, I think I saw them in reverse order.
So yeah, but it didn't take away any of the appreciation for it and stuff like that. I love Army of Darkness too, so it was all kind of all good.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, this is a great movie. I'm curious what they're gonna do with this newest one.
Right.
It seems like they're kind of going a different direction, but I guess we're gonna see.
Yeah, as the effects, it's like the effects were pretty awesome, especially for how low budget they were.
Oh yeah, totally.
Except for I noticed in the Evil Dead 2 that the the blood was very bright red.
Yeah, definitely. It was like more comic book.
Yeah.
There was kind of going like with just fake and blood coming out of the walls and things like that. But yeah, recommend it if you haven't seen these movies. We just spoiled them all for you, so you can thank us for that. But anyway, that's pretty much it. Well, that's it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed that little recap of Evil Dead 1 and 2. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Be sure to check next week where we're going to do a review of Army of Darkness. Really looking forward to that one. It's probably one of our favorites too. But yeah, anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this, and we will catch you next time.
Peace.